One of the hardest things about the silent treatment is that it doesn't look like conflict at all. If someone yells at you, argues with you, or even criticizes you, you can at least respond, you know what you're dealing with. But silence can feel like quicksand. It's quiet, it's cold, and it leaves you stuck. Second, guessing yourself, replaying every little detail of what you said or didn't say, wondering what went wrong. And that's exactly why we need to recognize it for what it is. The silent treatment is not just someone taking space to cool down. No, it's different. It's a form of control, a way to manipulate the atmosphere in a room without saying a word. It's communication, but in a distorted, unhealthy form. Now, don't misunderstand me. Sometimes people do need space. Sometimes emotions run high, and walking away to gather thoughts can be healthy. But there's a difference between healthy space and intentional silence designed to punish, to isolate, or to make you feel small. And that difference matters. Because when you start to recognize it, you stop falling into the trap of believing that you're the problem. That's where so many people get caught. They think, if they're not speaking to me, it must be my fault. I must have done something unforgivable. And suddenly, you start shrinking yourself down, apologizing for things you never did, carrying guilt that was never yours to carry. But here's the truth. Silence used as a weapon says more about the person giving it than the one receiving it. Think about that. When someone can't use words to solve a conflict, when they refuse to engage in an honest conversation, that's not strength. It's avoidance. And avoidance wrapped in silence doesn't heal anything. It just pushes the wound deeper. It leaves scars that never had to be there in the first place. The problem is not your worth. The problem is their unwillingness to deal with discomfort in a healthy way. When you finally see it that way, when you put the silent treatment in its true category, something powerful happens inside of you. You stop chasing after approval. You stop begging for scraps of acknowledgement. You begin to realize, wait a minute. This silence isn't about me being unworthy. It's about them being unwilling. And the moment you see that truth, you reclaim a part of yourself that you may not have even realized was slipping away. And I'll tell you why this is so important. Because silence can feel louder than words. The absence of a voice can echo louder than any argument. It creeps into your thoughts at night. It follows you into your day. And it whispers lies that you're not good enough, that you'll never measure up, that something is wrong with you. And if you don't learn to recognize it for what it is, you'll believe those lies. But when you do recognize it, the echo loses its power. You start to hear silence for what it really is, not the voice of truth, but the voice of fear, insecurity, and immaturity. I know some of you have been on the receiving end of this for a long time. Maybe from a partner. Maybe from a parent. Maybe even from a close friend. And you've carried that weight quietly, almost ashamed to admit how much it hurt you. But I want you to hear me clearly. You don't deserve to live under the shadow of someone else's silence. You deserve communication, honesty, and respect. And when you stop interpreting their silence as your fault, you break the cycle. You take back control of your story. And I think that's what makes the difference. Awareness. Because awareness is the first step to freedom. The moment you name the silent treatment for what it is, the moment you say, I see what's happening here, the game changes. You can't be manipulated by what you can see clearly. You can't be controlled by a tactic you understand. And the best part, you begin to rise above it with a strength that silence can't touch. So the next time someone tries to pull you into that cold, isolating silence, remind yourself of this truth. The absence of words doesn't define your value. Their refusal to speak doesn't erase your voice. Their silence is not a mirror of your worth. It's a reflection of their struggle. And the moment you recognize it, you'll walk with a quiet confidence that no silence can ever take away. When someone gives you the silent treatment, it's not just about the absence of words. It's about the storm that silence creates inside of you. The unanswered questions, the doubts, the way your mind starts running circles at 3 a.m, wondering, what did I do? What did I miss? That's the trap of it. It shifts the weight off of them and onto you. And before you know it, you're carrying guilt, fear, and confusion that don't even belong to you. That's why protecting your emotional balance is everything. Because here's what happens when you don't. Silence doesn't just fill the room, it fills your heart. It makes you feel smaller with each passing hour. It convinces you that maybe you're not worth a conversation, not worth the effort, not worth being heard. And if you're not careful, you'll start living like that's true. You'll walk around shrinking yourself, apologizing for your existence, and second, guessing every word you say because deep down, that silence planted a seed of unworthiness. But listen carefully, your value doesn't come from someone else's willingness to talk to you. Your worth isn't decided by their silence. The person who refuses to engage doesn't get to dictate how you see yourself. If you tie your self-worth to their behavior, you'll always be unstable. You'll be up when they're talking to you, and you'll be down when they're not. That's not balance. That's a roller coaster, and it will drain you. And I know, it's easier said than done. It's hard not to take silence personally. It's hard not to feel invisible when someone close to you pretends you don't exist. But that's exactly why you have to anchor yourself in something stronger than their silence. You have to remind yourself daily, I am valuable, whether someone speaks to me or not. I am worthy of love and respect whether someone acknowledges me or not. My identity doesn't shift with their mood. That shift in perspective is powerful. Because when you protect your emotional balance, you stop letting silence control you. You stop letting it define how you feel about yourself. You start to see it as just what it is, someone else's choice, not your reflection. And that clarity gives you freedom. It also gives you strength in the moment. Because the silent treatment is designed to pull a reaction out of you. It's meant to make you chase, to make you beg, to make you prove yourself. But when you're grounded, when your emotional balance is secure, you don't chase, you choose. You choose peace. You choose dignity. You choose not to let someone else's silence create chaos inside of you. And that choice is power. Think about it like this. If a storm rages outside, you can't control the wind or the rain. But you can choose to stay inside, keep the windows closed, and light a fire that keeps you warm. The silent treatment is like that storm. You may not be able to stop it, but you can protect what's inside of you. You can guard your peace, your joy, and your sense of self so that no matter how long the silence lasts, it doesn't break you. And something amazing happens when you do this. You stop being afraid of silence. It no longer has the power to shake you. Instead, you can look at it for what it is, a tactic, a behavior, not a reflection of your worth. And once you see it that way, you start standing taller. You start walking with confidence. You begin to live with a quiet strength that no silence can strip away. I think that's the lesson we often miss. Silence may surround you, but it doesn't have to live inside you. Protecting your emotional balance doesn't mean ignoring the hurt. It means refusing to let that hurt define you. It means choosing to stay grounded, choosing to believe in your own value, even when someone else refuses to acknowledge it. Because at the end of the day, silence only has the power you give it. And when you guard your peace, when you protect your balance, you take that power back. You stop being a victim of someone else's refusal to speak, and you become the author of your own response. And the strongest response you can ever give to silence is this: living steady, living confident, and living free. When someone gives you the silent treatment, one of the strongest temptations is to react. And I don't just mean reacting with words. I mean with emotions that spill out, with frustration that builds up, with that feeling inside of you that just wants to shake the silence until it breaks. Because silence doesn't just sit there. It stirs something in you. It pokes at your patience. It tests your dignity, and it dares you to lose control. And for most people, that's exactly what happens. They raise their voice, they slam the door, they start chasing after answers, demanding, pleading, begging for acknowledgement. But here's the hard truth. Every time you react like that, you give the silent treatment exactly what it was designed to get: power. See, silence works as a strategy because it puts you in a position of pursuit. It makes you feel desperate to end the discomfort, to restore the connection, to get closure. And so the one who holds the silence holds the strings while you dance around trying to figure out what will make them speak. That's the trap. And the only way to break that trap is to stop reacting. Now, that doesn't mean you ignore the reality. It doesn't mean you pretend the silence doesn't hurt. It means you choose calm over chaos. It means you refuse to let someone else's refusal define your response. Think about it. When you stay calm, you hold your ground. When you stay calm, you flip the script. Instead of their silence controlling the atmosphere, your composure does. You're no longer pulled into their storm, you're inviting them into your peace. And that takes strength. It takes patience. It takes the kind of maturity that says, I don't have to match your silence with noise. I don't have to beg you to break it. I can stand here, steady, and not let it shake me. Because the truth is, anger might feel satisfying for a moment, but it doesn't solve anything. Chasing might feel like you're doing something, but it doesn't heal anything. Calm, on the other hand, doesn't just protect your peace. It exposes the weakness of silence itself. Imagine this. Someone is trying to punish you by ignoring you. They expect you to blow up. They expect you to come crawling, to lose yourself trying to win back their words. But instead, you breathe. You keep your voice steady. You carry yourself with dignity. You show them, I'm available for healthy communication, but I won't be destroyed by your lack of it. That's power. That's control. Not the kind of control that manipulates, but the kind that stands firm. And let's be honest, that's not easy. It's not easy to hold your tongue when you want to scream. It's not easy to stay composed when you feel disrespected. It's not easy to respond with strength when everything in you feels weak. But this is where growth happens. This is where you prove to yourself that you are stronger than the silence. This is where you learn that dignity doesn't come from the other person's response. It comes from your own. I want you to think about how you feel after you lose your temper. After you've begged, pleaded, maybe even shouted in frustration. You feel drained, don't you? You feel like you've given away pieces of yourself, like you've lost twice. The silence hurt you, and your reaction embarrassed you. But when you stay calm, when you hold that line, something different happens. You walk away with peace. You walk away knowing, I didn't let silence control me. I controlled me. And that is victory. And here's the beautiful part. Calmness isn't weakness. Calmness is confidence. Calmness doesn't mean you're okay with what's happening. It means you're okay with who you are in the middle of it. That's a power no silence can take away from you. So the next time someone decides to withhold words in order to provoke a reaction, don't hand them your power. Don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you unravel. Instead, breathe, stay steady, stand tall, because in a battle of silence versus calm, calm always wins. And the greatest statement you can ever make to silence is not made with words. It's made with your composure. One of the biggest mistakes people make when dealing with the silent treatment is thinking that the solution is to chase. You know what I mean? You start knocking on doors that don't want to be opened. You send text after text, call after call, trying to break through the wall of silence. And every time you do, you're sending a message without even realizing it. The message is, you have control over me. My peace depends on you. And the sad part is, the more you chase, the more the silence grows. Because silence feeds off desperation. But here's the shift. When you communicate with clarity instead of desperation, the entire dynamic changes. See, desperation is begging. Desperation is saying, please talk to me, please notice me, please let me back in. Clarity is very different. Clarity is calm, respectful, steady. It says, I'm here. I'm willing to talk when you're ready. But I'm not going to lose myself while I wait. That kind of communication sets boundaries without starting a war. It says you're open to resolution, but you're not going to crawl for it. And clarity is powerful because it removes the guessing game. Instead of reacting emotionally, you express yourself simply and firmly, something as direct as, "I'd like to have a conversation when you're ready. Until then, I'm going to give you space." That's not weakness. That's leadership. That's maturity. That's you taking control of what you can control, your words, your posture, your peace. And it's amazing how often the moment you stop chasing and start standing, the power of silence begins to fade. Now, I know some people hear that and think, but what if they never respond? What if I lose them? And that's the fear that keeps us chasing, fear of loss, fear of abandonment, fear of being left behind. But here's the truth. If the only way to keep someone is to beg for the bare minimum of acknowledgement, then you don't really have them anyway. Real relationships are built on respect, not control. Real love doesn't starve you of communication. It feeds you with it. So when you lead with clarity, you're not just protecting your dignity, you're also testing the health of that relationship. Because someone who values you will eventually value your voice. And here's the other thing, communicating with clarity also protects your mental health. Because silence is exhausting. It wears you out emotionally, makes you overanalyze everything, makes you spiral into places you don't need to go. But when you've spoken clearly, when you've expressed your willingness without begging, you can rest. You can step back without guilt, knowing you've done your part. You've opened the door for conversation, and if they choose not to walk through it, that's on them, not you. That's what boundaries are really about. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They're doors that only open when respect walks through. And when you communicate with clarity, you're saying, "I love you enough to want resolution, but I love myself enough not to lose my voice in the process." That balance, that combination of grace and strength, that's what makes you unshackable. And maybe you've never done this before. Maybe all your life you've responded to silence by chasing it. Maybe you've given away your peace trying to win back someone's words. But it's never too late to change the pattern. It starts with one choice, one moment where you breathe, steady yourself, and instead of reacting, you simply say, "When you're ready to talk, I'll be here." No pleading, no bargaining, just clarity. And listen, it may not change them immediately. It may not even change them at all, but it will change you. It will change the way you feel about yourself, the way you carry yourself, the way you protect your spirit. And that changes everything. Because the goal isn't just to get someone to talk, it's to make sure you never lose your voice in the process. So don't let silence push you into desperation. Don't let it make you small. Stand tall, speak with clarity, set your boundaries, and keep your dignity. Because in the end, the loudest thing you can ever say to silence is this: "I respect myself enough to never beg for the respect I already deserve." The silent treatment doesn't just stop at the surface. It goes deeper. It doesn't just close someone's mouth. It can close your heart if you let it. That's why protecting your mental and spiritual well-being is so important. Because the silent treatment isn't just about the absence of words, it's about the weight those missing words leave behind. It creates a heaviness you carry around, sometimes without even realizing it. It affects your thoughts, your energy, your confidence. It can even affect the way you see yourself. And if you're not careful, you'll start living under the shadow of someone else's silence. Think about it. When you go days without a response, or you're ignored by someone who matters to you, it's not just quiet around you, it becomes loud inside of you. The mind starts working overtime. You replay conversations, you invent scenarios, you question your worth. Silence becomes a mirror reflecting your fears back at you. And that's dangerous, because if you're not grounded, you'll start to believe those fears are facts. That's where the damage happens, not in the silence itself, but in what you allow the silence to convince you of. This is why taking care of yourself in those moments isn't selfish. It's survival. When someone withholds communication, You have two choices. You can sink into the weight of it, or you can use that same space to rise. You can fill the silence with self-doubt, or you can fill it with strength. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you. That choice is yours, and here's what that looks like in real life. Instead of sitting in a room waiting for the silence to break, you step outside, you take a walk, you breathe. You pick up a book that feeds your mind instead of spirals your thoughts. You write down how you feel instead of letting those feelings eat you alive. You turn your focus away from what you can't control, their words, and toward what you can control, your own growth. That's how you protect your mental health. And spiritually, it's even more powerful, because silence from people doesn't mean silence from God. People may shut you out, but God never does. People may withhold their words, but God's word is always available. You can sit in that quiet space, open your heart in prayer, and discover a peace that no silence can take away. You can lean into faith and remind yourself, I am seen, I am heard, I am loved. Because at the deepest level, that's what silence tries to steal, the sense that you matter. But when you anchor yourself in something unshakable, you stop looking for validation in the wrong places. The truth is, silence is not just about them not speaking. It's about you deciding what you're going to hear in the middle of it. Will you hear lies that you're not enough? Or will you hear the reminder that your worth has never depended on anyone else's voice? That's why taking care of yourself during these times is not optional. It's essential. And let me tell you something. When you shift your focus like this, it does something incredible. What was meant to weaken you starts to strengthen you. What was meant to break your spirit builds it instead. You begin to realize that silence can't stop you from growing. It can't stop you from becoming wiser, stronger, and more resilient. You come out on the other side not just surviving, but standing taller. That's the beauty of it. Silence, when handled right, can actually become the soil where your strength grows. It's in those moments of being shut out that you discover what's inside you. It's in those moments of being ignored that you learn how powerful your own voice really is. And it's in those moments of feeling abandoned that you realize you are never truly alone. So if you're in that space right now, if someone's silence has been weighing on you, don't let it destroy you. Don't let it convince you that you're invisible. Protect your mind, guard your heart, feed your spirit, because silence has no power over someone who knows their worth. And when you learn to rise in those quiet places, you'll discover a strength so unshakable, not even silence can silence you. There's one more truth about the silent treatment that we need to face, and it's not an easy one. Sometimes, no matter how much patience you show, no matter how calmly you respond, no matter how clearly you communicate, the silence doesn't stop. It becomes a cycle, a pattern, a way of life for that person. And the hardest part is realizing that you cannot change someone who refuses to change themselves. That's when you have to make a choice, not just about them, but about you. Because let's be honest, silence hurts. It isolates. It makes you feel invisible. And when it becomes a constant in a relationship, it starts eating away at the very foundation of respect. You can't build trust where communication is always withheld. You can't build intimacy where words are treated like weapons. And you can't build peace where silence has become a prison. If the silent treatment becomes a lifestyle instead of a moment, you have to ask yourself, how long can I live like this before I lose myself completely? See, love without respect isn't really love. Connection without communication isn't really connection. And relationships that thrive on silence aren't really relationships. They're cages. And no matter how much you care for someone, no matter how much history you share, you were never meant to live caged in someone else's refusal to communicate. That's not partnership. That's punishment. And the truth is, sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and even for them, is to step away. Now, stepping away doesn't always mean walking out forever. Sometimes it means creating space, drawing boundaries, making it clear that you will not keep participating in unhealthy patterns. Sometimes it means saying, I'm here if you're ready to talk, but I won't sit quietly in the dark anymore. Other times it does mean walking away entirely. It means choosing your peace over their control. It means realizing that protecting your heart is not abandonment, it's wisdom. And I know that's terrifying. It's terrifying to think about letting go of someone you love. It's terrifying to imagine a life where they're not part of your daily world. But what's even more terrifying is waking up 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and realizing you spent your life silenced, minimized, and starved of connection. That's not living, that's existing. And you were made for more than that. The truth is, stepping away takes courage. It takes strength. It takes a deep belief that your value doesn't rise and fall with someone else's treatment of you. And it takes faith that walking away from what breaks you opens the door to what builds you. Because here's the thing, when you finally create that distance, when you finally protect your peace, you give yourself permission to heal. You give yourself the space to grow. You open yourself to the possibility of healthier connections, where words are not withheld like punishment, but shared like gifts. And that's the point. Communication is a gift. Respect is a gift. Love that makes space for your voice is a gift. And if someone keeps robbing you of that gift, you don't stay chained to the theft. You choose freedom. You choose wholeness. You choose life. So if you've tried patience, if you've tried calmness, if you've tried clarity, and the silence still doesn't end, don't lose yourself in someone else's cycle. Sometimes the bravest thing you can ever do is simply walk toward the light, even if it means leaving the shadows of silence behind. Because at the end of the day, silence is not love. Silence is not respect. Silence is not partnership. And you were not created to live unseen, unheard, and unloved. You were created to be valued, respected, and known. And if the silent treatment has become your prison, it's time to find the courage to set yourself free.